All right, friends. How we doing tonight? Hope everybody's doing all right. We are streaming this live in a lot of places now. We're streaming this live on WSFA's family of streaming apps. Wherever you stream, you can watch this: Roku TV, Amazon, Apple. Basically, name the platform we're on it. You can also watch these conversations live on the First Alert Weather app and on the WSFA 12 News app. And tonight we are also multi-streaming this out to my Facebook page and my YouTube channel. Just search Josh Johnson WSFA on either platform, and you can dial us in there. So many of you watching this on the live stream, if you want to comment, head over to Facebook and search Josh Johnson WSFA, and you can type in a question, and I'll actually see it right here. So the joys of multi-streaming, right? We can do a lot of different fun things, and it all has to do with an unwelcome visitor named Helene. This is a storm that we've been talking about since before it was even a twinkle in its mother's eye. We had this thing, it was showing up in the model data very consistently, 6, 7, 8+ days out. And here we are now tracking it. And it is a monster. No way to sugarcoat this one. This is a Category 3 storm for now. I think it's going to reach 4 intensity before landfall. Let's dive into the mechanics here and what we're looking at. So here is Florida's Big Bend right here. Apalachicola and St. George Island would sit over there. There's Panama City. So 38 would be a little west of there. So this is going to move pretty consistently towards the north, maybe a tick east of due north over the next several hours. It will make landfall. It's 4 now, is it really? All right. That is a literally brand new development. Let's dive in and when it gets this close to land, the Hurricane Center begins publishing out updates extremely quickly. So I'll do everything I can to hop on there and see what we're dealing with here. But this is a major storm. Whether it's a 3 or a 4, quite frankly, immaterial. It's a huge problem. It is a huge hurricane, both in terms of size and intensity. So, let's see. Hurricane Helene. Update statement at 5:20. Now a Category 4 hurricane. How about that? Yeah, this was a special statement they put out between me doing main weather in the newscast and right now. They've upgraded it now to a Category 4. Not surprising. We've been kind of calling for that in these discussions and conversations for several days now. The problem we face here is this still has another 5 to 6 hours over water with no wind shear and no dry air. So this will likely continue strengthening, and the only thing that would really cause any weakening would be if we saw an eye wall replacement cycle. That's a physical process that happens during hurricanes where 2 concentric eye walls form, an inner eye wall and an outer one. Eventually that causes the inner eye wall to collapse, and it's replaced by the outer eye wall. And briefly, that can cause some weakening of the maximum sustained winds inside the hurricane until that outer eye wall shrinks down into a smaller size. Now, it would take some really fortunate timing for us to be going through an eye wall replacement cycle at landfall, but that's what we're going to keep our fingers crossed that is indeed the case, that we can get one of those eye wall replacement cycles. Okay, so what do we see now in the eye? Well, nothing good. Check this out. Let me zoom you in here. Extreme convection. Particularly here on the northwest side of this thing. Lightning strikes. That's not terribly common in a tropical system. Remember, hurricanes and tropical storms are warm core systems, so the ice processes that help form lightning are typically not as advanced in tropical cyclones as they are in your standard run-of-the-mill storm. So to create lightning in a tropical environment like this is impressive, and that is one of those many trademarks of an incredibly powerful hurricane. And unfortunately, that is precisely what we're stuck with here with this Hurricane Helene. Let me show you the updated track from the Hurricane Center. So Cat 4 now, and this will likely remain at Category 4 intensity through landfall. I suppose it's not out of the question this could reach 5. I think that's a long shot. It would need to do quite a bit of strengthening here in the next 4 or 5 hours. But I will say the 2 o'clock advisory, it was at 1:20. Now it's at 130, and it just keeps going up. So not out of the question. I think it's unlikely, but not out of the question. Now, the huge impacts here, there's really several of them. Florida's Big Bend, they are going to have catastrophic storm surge flooding. Because of its sort of recessed nature into the Panhandle and Peninsula here, this is actually a part of the coastline that hasn't had a lot of major hurricane impacts in the last few years. Hurricane Michael went a little west of this, and then some of the other large ones went a little east of here. So a Cat 4 coming up into Appalachia Bay, as the National Weather Service in Tallahassee accurately pointed out, this is a nightmare scenario, an unsurvivable scenario. Again, that's in Appalachia Bay, Florida, where we are expecting 12 to 15 feet of storm surge. Now, storm surge is important to remember. That doesn't mean when we say 12 to 15 feet, imagine yourself sitting out in your chair at the beach and you're looking at the ocean. That doesn't mean the water comes 12 to 15 feet towards you. That means the water goes 12 to 15 feet above you, above where it is right now, or where it was before this all started. So catastrophic storm surge flooding, and in our advanced law firm storm track zone, we can actually plot the peak storm surge as predicted by the National Hurricane Center. So you zoom in here south of Tallahassee, and there is a large stretch of coastline where they are projecting 12 plus feet of storm surge around Perry down to Steinhatchee. Now, for reference, the historical maximum on record in a lot of this part of the coastline is around 10 feet. So this is going to be catastrophic. There will be houses that have never been flooded before that get flooded because of this storm, again, along Florida's Big Bend. The good news, if there is any for Florida, the western side of this is the better side, right? And that's where a lot of the densely populated areas are. Now, look, our hearts break and our prayers go up for the people in the Big Bend, but there are a lot of people in Panama City and along 30A and Destin who are concerned about this too. You're on the western side. Look, you're going to have a really rough surf. Swimming in the Gulf of Mexico would be the worst decision you've ever made in your life. And we've all made them, right? But swimming in the Gulf today, tonight, even tomorrow, catastrophically stupid. Don't do it. But the good news there is most of those areas, Panama City, Destin, over to Pensacola, it's an offshore breeze. The impacts are fairly limited. Let me show you this. So this will show you the wind swath going up through the hurricane force wind swath going up into Georgia. So this would be winds of roughly 75 miles per hour or greater. And you'll notice those extend well up into Georgia, almost all the way to Macon. And then watch what happens when we flip this over to tropical storm force wind. So that's around 40 to 70 mile per hour wind here. Look what happens. Whoo! That's tough for Georgia, man. Look at that. I mean, the Hurricane Center is saying there's a 90% chance of tropical storm force wind, which is 39 to 73 miles per hour, over almost the entire state of Georgia, including Atlanta and the North Georgia mountains. This is going to be a storm that the Atlanta metro area and north and northeast Georgia, they've never seen anything like this before. This intensity of a storm moving this quickly on this track. No one alive has seen something like this. So I am not prone to hyperbole or overly emotional storm analysis, but if you have family or friends that live up here, particularly in the higher elevations of North Georgia, please help them understand life-threatening flash flooding is going to happen. Life-threatening and power outage causing wind damage is likely going to happen. Trees falling, they've got to hunker down, right? If they have a sturdier place to get to, they live in a mobile home, if they can get to a site-built home, that's best. If they live in a flood-prone spot, they've got to get out of that. This is, again, a very, very dangerous scenario for the state of not just Florida, but Georgia as well. So it is vital that if you have family or friends in Georgia, that they understand, look, this is not just a South Georgia problem. This is going to go up into Athens and Atlanta and Blue Ridge and Ellijay and Dahlonega and Dawsonville and Toccoa and all those towns up in North Georgia with beautiful country. But that terrain, those mountains, inland flooding is the number one killer in hurricanes, believe it or not. And we have had hurricanes that get up here into some of these mountains in the mid-Atlantic all the way down into North Georgia historically that have caused catastrophic loss of life. And I have grave concerns. We may be setting up for that again, particularly, again, North Georgia, northeastern South Carolina, western North Carolina, and up into the Smoky Mountains. So that's the message there for them. Now, what about the message here at home? We're trying to cover all of this, right? And there's a lot to cover for a lot of different people and reasons. This is the track from the Hurricane Center. That puts Alabama pretty far on that western side, so this will not be one size fits all for us. Let me take you through the hour by hour. And I know, look, the day and time's right up here. It's probably hard to see on the screen here, but I'll sort of narrate it through for you. This is 8 o'clock tonight, and it is raining torrentially along the Georgia border, and the moon is out in Demopolis and Camden and Miller's Ferry and Selma and Marion. It is not one size fits all. East Alabama, heavy rain, occasional gusty wind, perhaps some sporadic power outages. I don't expect the wind in any part of Alabama to be strong enough to cause structural damage to your home. In the far eastern counties, what could happen, though, a possible scenario would be if you have a weakened, diseased, bug-infested tree or tree limb from a previous storm that got hit, perhaps. Those things could fall on homes and create those very isolated problem spots, right? This will not be what they're having in Georgia or Florida. This will be for 99% of you, even in far east Alabama, it's a really rainy, really windy night. In West Alabama, it's not even rainy. So again, our impacts here locally are rather limited, but they're not zero. So understand a kind of a moderate impact scenario along the Georgia border. So places like Dothan and Geneva and Abbeville and Eufaula and Clio, and on up into Russell County, around Seal and Hurtsboro, up into Lee County, Auburn, Opelika, Smith Station, all the way up into Chambers and Randolph. I saw someone ask about Heflin. That's up in Cleburne County. Yes, this will impact you. If you live in a county that touches Georgia, you're going to have the most impacts of anyone in Alabama. What will those impacts be? 4 to 6 inches of rain, which could cause isolated problems with flash flooding. Some of those, some roads, some culverts near creeks, especially in low-lying areas, could flood or wash out. You're also going to have 25 to 35 mile per hour wind gust. For the most part, that's more nuisance than dangerous. But again, if you get in a really weird, unique, bad luck scenario, the wrong tree falls in the wrong way, we could have more than that. So we'll keep an eye out for that sort of thing, and you should too. Okay, so then we go through the rest of this. This is 8 o'clock tonight. Here you go. The outer bands, what happens here, the storm's moving essentially due north. So where it starts raining tonight, it's going to rain until the storm goes north of you. That will take some time. You'll notice even as late as midnight, 1, 2, 3, it's still relatively wet. But then by 4 o'clock, now the center is up in the North Georgia mountains, and life is starting to get better in much of southeast Alabama. And by the time you get to 8 o'clock Friday morning, this is all out of here. So timing this out, lots and lots of rain east and southeast Alabama now through about 4 a.m. After that, life gets better. Now, clouds hang tough in the morning, but even those go away. And Friday ends up being the nicest day we've had in months. It's windy, there's a little breeze, free air conditioning, and temperatures in the upper 70s to near 80 degrees. What's left of Helene then gets pulled up and absorbed by an upper low up in the Tennessee Valley, up near Nashville. That will mean a pretty stiff westerly breeze at times, even on into Saturday. You'll notice a few more clouds around Saturday morning. Can't rule out a renegade sprinkle or shower, but it's essentially inconsequential, and the weekend ahead actually looks very, very nice. So mapping all this out for you, as far as wind impacts are concerned, in the area outlined in yellow here, you will notice the wind, and that's about it. It is noticeable. In the area outlined in kind of the lighter orange color here, so this would be Pike Road, Tuskegee, Dadeville, Troy, Florala, Opp, that corridor right through there, the wind will be nuisance level. It will blow over your trash can. It'll blow over your trash can lid. It will blow over your patio furniture. If you have a pool, maybe the pool floats get strewn about. It is nuisance, right? So we've got noticeable and then nuisance. And then in the far, far eastern counties of the state, roughly again from about Opelika, Smith Station, Seal, Hurtsboro, Eufaula, Shorterville down to Dothan, some isolated gust as high as maybe 40 miles an hour. The eastward shift in the data makes me think a lot of this 50-mile-an-hour stuff, that stays in Georgia. And remember, these are the peak wind gust. That doesn't mean it's this all night. It will be a breezy night, but for the most part, the wind's blowing at 15 to 20 miles an hour area-wide. But in the far eastern counties, we could see those occasional brief, quick gusts where the wind pops up as high as 30, 35 miles an hour. That's where you could deal with those sporadic power outages a little bit later on into the night tonight. We'll double check too. Let's check this out. Our advanced law firm Storm Track Zone is an incredibly powerful piece of software. It can do so many different things. Among them, it can show you power outages by state. And you'll notice here, we already in the state of Florida have 290,000 power outages. This storm hasn't even made landfall yet, and we're over 250,000 there. Georgia, it's kind of a similar scenario. They're at 10,000, but my prediction is power outages will go over 1 million. When you combine Florida and Georgia together, we will end up with power outages that are in the million plus range, maybe 2 million. 1 to 2 million without electricity in Georgia and Florida at the peak of this thing late tonight and early Friday morning. So there you go. Raven asked, should we expect limbs falling at these wind speeds? In most cases, no. If it did happen, it'd be along the Georgia border, and it's not a huge deal. No, look, mobile homes in central Alabama, you're fine. Unless there's a big, weak tree hanging over it, you're going to be fine there. So that's where we are. Look, the comments are coming in sort of by the dozens here. I've got to jump off of here because I've got a newscast in 8 minutes and 6 seconds. I have to get ready for that. I will hop on the comments and answer those just by typing you a quick message. So if it's a what about question, what about slap out, what about Deetsville, look, we've covered all of that. Go back, watch the video again. We've covered all the what about questions. Who gets what? West Alabama, it barely rains, it's breezy. Central Alabama, Montgomery, Wetumpka, Andalusia, there's on and off rain, it's breezy. East Alabama, it rains all night. The wind could gust as high as 30 or 35 miles an hour. A few weakened tree branches could fall. Scattered power outages are possible. All of this happens between now and 4 o'clock tomorrow morning. After that, life gets better very quickly. There you go. That encompasses every square inch of Alabama now has a very specific, concise forecast that you can use to make good decisions. So I-65 to Birmingham tomorrow is not an issue. So Lee, you're good there. Sandra asked, are you staying with us tonight, Josh? Yes, I am. I will be here until meteorologist Nick Gunner gets in at around 3:30 tomorrow morning. So we've got you covered. Meteorologist Amanda Curran's in the back here. There she is. Wow. Look at this. A celebrity sighting.
Hi.
I've never met a celebrity before.
You've never looked in the mirror?
I try not to.
Did you hear
Val? Have you seen this? Well, so what? You've been back in the back getting our weather app kind of up and running, and fresh content going on that. Also been doing some analysis. What are you seeing with the storm right now? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I definitely think it's very interesting. Something we've been watching for the past couple of days. That little eastern trajectory. I think that and the slow motion. I mean, it's moving pretty quick off towards the north, but I think it's still timing out a little bit slower than I think models initially anticipated. So that's going to give it more time to be over the water. And yeah, that eye wall, it's large. Its span of rain is very large. So there's a lot of interesting things about this. And that's the thing is hurricanes are never one size fits all. Right. They're never all identical.
They're all different.
Yeah.
Right?
So to see that extent of the rain shield going as far north as it is, and then seeing how much wet weather is going to roll on in. So yeah, definitely an interesting storm. I think we have been very lucky where we are, where we are, and where this is probably going to track through Georgia, while our friends to the east are definitely going to be impacted a lot heavily.
Yeah, Georgia and Florida. I don't remember being this concerned about a weather event for Georgia or Florida. Maybe the whole time I've been here, this one just particularly Georgia.
Yeah.
You get a Category 4 hurricane racing northward, right up the most populated corridor in the state. So we're talking Albany, Macon, Atlanta, North Georgia mountains. And then you get up into the mountains with all the freshwater flooding there, which is actually the leading cause of death in hurricanes.
Yeah.
So if you have family or friends in Georgia, please, look, don't scare them to death, but just let them know they don't need to be going out tonight or tomorrow morning. Stay at home, hunker down, charge your devices. You may have power outages that last some time there. The other thing I was thinking about today, Amanda, and we got to wind this thing down in just a minute or two, but storms that form where this one did. Mm-hmm. I would have to go back and pull the data, but my memory and experience tells me 60+% of those end up pulled almost due north, which would have brought it on shore.
Right towards
We'd be
us.
talking about Pensacola to Montgomery instead of Tallahassee to Atlanta.
Yeah.
So the approach of that upper trough and the timing on it was just enough to nudge it off that track to the east just a little.
Yeah.
And boy, for us, you said it when you walked out here. Lucky is the word, definitely. Look at it. So that's the center of the eye on radar. Now check this out. So if I go here and look at this little clearing has been kind of wobbling around the eye all day. So it is an eye for sure. Like that's what it's showing. But it is interesting in that I still think this thing is a little bit tilted because the radar has the center of it right there. And it's a little different when you go over to the satellite data. Satellite data's got it a little off over there. So it'll be interesting to see if that kind of continues, if that eye can kind of on satellite keeps wobbling around the center a little bit.
For sure.
Yeah, landfall right up there, I think.
Yeah, and I think even better, the fact that we're on the western extent of this. I mean, we've seen tornado warning after tornado warning throughout, not just Florida, Georgia, North and South Carolina as well. So we've been really fortunate to be able to say that we're kind of on the cleaner side of things.
It's been a problem for sure.
Yeah.
All right, hey, we got to get ready for WSFA 12 News at 6. You can stream that too, by the way. For those of you on Facebook and YouTube, head over to the WSFA First Alert weather app, scroll to the bottom, hit Watch Live. You can stream that. Of course, if you're in a television with your pay provider, you can go in there and find that. If you have a connected or smart TV, just search WSFA wherever you get your app. You can stream it there. Thank you. Thank you. We'll get through all this together, I promise. Hope you all have a wonderful evening. Take care, and we will see you shortly.